to tackle. I'm Pamela Wistrom, tonight's co-host, and boy, are we in for a beyond amazing show. So everybody out in the audience and at home, comfy cozy, get a snack, and get ready for tonight's show. And now, for the host and star of this 14-year-long weekly TV show, the one and only William J. Wagener. Woo!
William Wagener here in Riverside County with George. George, do I have permission to publish this interview?
Yes, you sure do.
Are you going to tell me the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but what you know to be personally true?
So help me God.
And what is your last name, George?
My last name is Olivo.
Spell that.
Olivo.
All right. George is here because George happened to work for the Occupy movement. And because he was interested in helping people realize they've been reduced to debt slaves in America, he got involved in helping, what was the name of that family whose house you saved?
That was the Perez family home in the city of Anaheim.
And they're still in their home.
They are still in their home.
And it didn't come from legal filings in the courthouse.
No, sir. It came from the family working very hard, organizing the community, making some noise in the bank, and social media, which is our greatest tool.
Did you take blowhorns and stand outside the bank with blowhorns telling them what for?
Yes, sir. We went inside the banks with bullhorns demanding justice for this family who never missed a mortgage payment and were being foreclosed on their home.
How could they foreclose on the Perez family when they had never missed a payment?
The banks had sold the mortgage to another company, which Mrs. Perez did not know. She made the mortgage payment to her original mortgage people, and they sent it back and gave her the people to send the mortgage payment, which she did, and then her mortgage payment was denied.
Wow. After how many years were the Perez family paying? How many years?
Close to 30 years.
So they were almost paid off.
Yes, they were.
And then they tried to take the home.
Yes, they did.
And now they're still in their home, but did they sign a new mortgage?
I can't give any specifics of that mortgage because if I do, they will take it back.
Okay, gotcha. Anyway, all this led to some meetings that you had with Occupy, correct?
Yes, and social media because we've tried to fight foreclosures in court only to lose and with horrible results. But when we do social media, harass the banks directly, demanding justice with the people and organize the community and go to city council and we let the people know what we're doing. We apply the pressure on the banks to where they open up negotiations for a modification that the homeowners can afford.
I got that. So this works better than going into court with an attorney.
Yes, it does. I've never seen a foreclosure victory in the past 5 years that I've been a part of fighting foreclosures and doing social media. I personally have yet to see a victory in court. I know that there's a few of them out there. I know we have a couple of people who are suffering some prison time over their foreclosure victory. But their case is documented, but they're still getting punished for winning a settlement from the banks.
Yeah, that's. I'm thinking of Mary McCullough when you say that.
Exactly, that's exactly who I was speaking of.
And they punished her for winning,
Yes,
a big judgment over the crimes of the bank.
Yes, they did. They punished her for winning. That's exactly it. For exposing and winning a settlement.
We've got to punish the bank somehow, don't we?
Yes, we do.
Now I want to go on. So this led to going to meetings, and at one of your Occupy meetings, did somebody approach you claiming to be an attorney fighting for the people?
Yes, that would be Lenore Albert. She approached us in many different foreclosure groups, offering assistance, claiming to have foreclosure victories and wins, none that I ever knew about, and come to find out, neither did anybody else. But she came offering assistance. She took clients from that are their foreclosure fighters themselves to help them in their case that she retained. She took their money and ran. She's famous for late filing.
Now, do you
This
know
is all
this? You
court
know this
public
because you
record.
did what? You followed her day and night, or you worked for
What
her?
I did is I supported her because she supported us at the Perez home. And we, if you can imagine, we're activists. So at that time, we thought, wow, we have an attorney with a bar card that's willing to support and help us legally.
That's what you thought.
That's what I thought because that's what she had said. And she did spend some time with us. She attended some of our meetings and she met other people. She offered her assistance at no charge. Then a few months later, we found out that she retained some of our people. And what I mean by our people, I'm talking about the foreclosure fighters who fight for people's homes that were losing their homes, right? That were in the process of fighting for their homes and fighting for other people's homes as well. She retained them as clients, gave them false hope, false allegations, never filed anything in court. And if she did, it was late. It got dismissed and thrown out.
Now, you know that because you worked for her?
Yes, sir, I did.
And did she pay you too well?
She paid me peanuts for long hours. I went to work for her because she had broken her hand, and she needed my help. She didn't have any other employees there at that time, and she doesn't drive. She needed a driver.
Tim, she had a guy named Tim working for her, right?
Yes.
And she'd laid him off.
Well, he quit for personal reasons.
He quit, okay. So I just wanted to be clear. She didn't fire him. He quit for personal reasons.
Yes.
Okay, and then you came to work for her because of all this. And did you ever see one case that Lenore took that she flat out won in court for the
No.
homeowner?
No.
Went to work for her. Did Cindy Brown go to work for her?
Yes, she did.
And did Cindy see her win any cases?
I don't believe so. I can't speak for her, but I can guarantee you no.
Okay, well,
And Sherry Moody went to work for her as well, who is very close and personal to me, which started this whole different ball game that we have here with this attorney. What happened was she filed Sherry Moody's case in the 11th hour, not giving opposing counsel 24 hours notice. So it got dismissed and thrown. I knew that
Oh
it
my
got
God.
dismissed and thrown, and I knew that it happened. So I told her what she did was wrong. She had a placard on her desk that honors her service as an attorney. I twisted that placard and I go, why don't you honor what this placard says and what is it doing here? She accused me of picking up that placard, holding it over her head, filed a restraining order against me, which was dismissed with prejudice, and I was awarded $1,000 in attorney fees. She has also filed more TROs, temporary restraining orders, for the very foreclosure fighters that we have sat in together in the trenches and we have helped people. And a lot of times when we help people with foreclosures, it's helping them pack up their stuff because we lose. We have very few wins, but we fight like hell for the people. And these people give up their time. She's attacked the very people because I held her accountable with Sherry Moody's case. She had dismissed her clients for being friends of mine in different foreclosure groups.
oh,
She had fired them because now she because I'm a social media journalist, I told her that what she did was wrong. I was warned by a couple of people that Lenore Albert is not doing what she says she's going to do, and she's doing late filings, and she's not honoring her word with this, and she's taking people's money and not being held accountable, and she's not winning any cases, and she's filing her cases
you
late.
never saw her win a single case.
No, and I'm ashamed to say that somebody very near and dear to me who warned me. I didn't listen because I believed her lies that the reason why this and this happened, she had every excuse in the world. But when she did it in front of my face with Sherry Moody's case, because I'm an eyewitness to her lying to Sherry Moody on the phone, telling her that she was working on her case. Don't worry. At that time, I lived with Sherry Moody. All right. So I would go home and Sherry Moody would ask me, what's going on with my case? Lenore's not returning my cell phone calls. She's not returning my text messages. I have a court date coming up. Hello? How come I'm not in her office sitting down going over getting the paperwork ready with her? How come she's not? And when I talked to Lenore, I got all of her paperwork together. You know, Lenore had told me that don't worry about Sherry Moody's case.
You're traveling into another dimension, a dimension not only of sight and sound, but of mind, whose only limitation is the imagination. Next stop, the courthouse zone. Thank you for that great introduction. I'm William Wagener for this show, hoping you're paying close attention. With me here in the studio today, on the 15th of April, when most of you are thinking about paying income taxes, this lady here, Cindy Brown, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
She's concerned about keeping possession of her house because she claims, and I think she can prove here by the exhibit she has, there has been massive fraud and felony committed with your loan documents.
Absolutely.
2004 or something, you see a house you like, you decide to buy it, right?
1992.
Oh, 1992.
1992, August.
And you put some money down
20%.
in 92. And so everything's going fine, you're making your payments, and then at some point you refinance?
Yes, actually I refinanced in November of 2005. And prior to that I had other refinances that I was unaware of because I was on tour. And it looks very similar to what happened in 2005, but just magnified.
Are you saying they were frauding your documents way back in the 90s?
I saw the evidence of the F word, which the Superior Court doesn't like to hear, back in 2003.
We can't say the fraud word, the F word. And the reason, people, in case you don't know, I only know because I went to law school for 3 years, but I'm not a lawyer. Don't paint the lawyer picture. I'm not a lawyer. Never been a member, a bar card member. Because early on in studying the law, I worked for some lawyers, decided they were crooks. And I was working for one of the best law firms in Orange County, part-time, and decided I don't want any part of this. So I finished that semester and I was done. But I studied fraud in law school. And if they commit fraud on the court, and if you don't know this, fraud undoes everything back to the point of the fraud. And what Cindy's claiming here is there's been fraud on the court. There's fraud in the clerk's office and fraudulent documents filed, right?
Absolutely.
And the clerk at some point accepted fraudulent documents as if they were genuine.
Well, they're trying to sidestep the issues by alleging that they don't scrutinize documents. They accept everything by looking at the required format. They don't have the legal skills to
They
decipher.
don't test the documents.
Correct. They just
see
accept it.
if the form looks right.
Correct. If the format fits the requirements, they accept it, whether it's fraudulent or not. If we debate and dispute the issues, then we have to take it inside the courts. Well, once it gets inside the courts, we don't have a chance.
Because the judges accept the fraudulent documents? And that's why they don't want you to come in and say, fraud,
Well, it's not
Your
even...
Honor, fraud.
I think,
By the way, Cindy Brown isn't just a Cindy Brown. There's many Cindy Browns. This Cindy Brown won the gold medal in Olympics for what, in 1988?
Yes, basketball.
Basketball.
1988.
I bet you can still do a three-pointer, huh?
It depends if it's Nintendo. I think Nintendo's out. I think it's Xbox now.
Well, she did win a gold medal in 1988. So it's that Cindy Brown we're speaking with here today. A professional athlete. Now, getting back to your story, I'm sorry, I should have said that in the beginning. You didn't really start to notice the fraud until the refinance in 05.
Yes.
And in 05, you started signing some documents with who?
These appear to be documents with the escrow company or the lender, home loan mortgage.
This one says continuation sheet, residential loan application. Is that your signature on the bottom?
No, it is not.
That's a forged signature?
That is definitely a forged signature.
You didn't in any way sign anything that got copied into this. This is not even your signature.
That is not my signature.
Okay. It says Cindy Brown, but you're saying it not. Now, this document says good faith estimate. And it's interesting to me because it says it was faxed on the 12th or December
9th,
9th,
2005.
2005. But what's the date on it, Cindy? Read the date.
It's December 9th, 2005.
Right. And this signature down here, is that your signature?
That's not my signature.
And what's the date of this forged signature? Can you make it out?
That's November 18th, 2005. They've backdated.
They've backdated. Is that a felony?
Looks like it to me.
People, now you can start to understand why everybody in the legal system who's part of the corruption is going to pretend there is no fraud in the court. Because this means judges, attorneys, maybe even clerks of the court may have to face criminal charges. And guess what? They don't want to go to prison.
And they don't want these documents entered into the evidence because it shows a clear path of the fraud.
What is this document? It says Fidelity National Title Company.
That's the escrow company. That's the company that has a fiduciary duty and has no biased stance for both sides. In fact, they're just a third party making sure that both sides get what they contract for.
And that's the one that was backdated?
That's correct.
Yeah, so that one's backdated.
Yes, it is.
We said that. This one says Truth in Lending Disclosure Statement. Applicant Cindy Brown. Is this your real signature?
Nope.
So this isn't your signature either.
No, it's not my signature.
How can they have all these documents going in to be filed if you didn't sign them?
Someone's after my house. Someone who sees the equity sitting there. It was near being paid off in full, and it's basically just a home that's sitting there open for theft.
For theft. Legal theft.
Legal theft.
White collar crime.
Absolutely.
What does this one say? This is dated 12/20/03.
1226. It looks like maybe 05.
03 or 05? Oh, yeah, I guess it's 05. Down here it says December 28th, 05. And there's $300 and some thousand at stake here.
Yes, this is actually the pretender lender. This is the party who actually did the stripping, part of the stripping, the equity in the home. And this guy is making pretty big bucks, $384,000.
He's making $384,000
Yes,
to steal your house
correct. A home that was purchased back in '92
in 92.
for $350,000 with a 20% down. Somehow or another, he's managed to strip the equity out of the property.
How?
Oh, I know how he did it. Pretty easy. It's a basic white-collar theft that is 101. It's really simple to steal a home.
Wow. What is this one? This says signatures affidavit, AKA statement, signature statement. I, Cindy Brown, certify that this is my true and correct signature. Is this one your true and correct signature?
Those are the correct signatures. Those are my signatures.
These are your signatures. You actually
Yes.
signed this document.
Yes, I did.
Did you understand what you were doing when you signed this document?
No, I did not understand what I was doing other than making sure that when they go through the loan packet that they can identify that the signatures are true and correct within the loan packet. But today I've just recently found out through someone that that's not what that document represents.
So you were there when this notary, L. Martin, notarized this.
Yes, this...
But you didn't understand why she was having you notarize this statement.
No.
Were there other documents that were being notarized at the same time?
There's quite a few documents. There are
And we're
loan
going,
applications.
Yeah, loan applications, and we're going through them. This one is substitution of trustee and full reconveyance, whereas Cindy Brown was the original trustee. Chicago Title, the original trustee, and Craig R. Diamond, the beneficiary? How did he become the beneficiary?
He's definitely got a relationship with someone inside of Fidelity National Title Company, and that escrow officer provide him the assistance in executing these documents to take ownership over the property so that they could strip the equity.
Wow. You're saying that this whole title company organization, or somebody in it, was cooperating with Diamond?
Absolutely. Had to have.
There's no other way they could have pulled this off?
No. I wouldn't be able to pull off an operation like this.
I used to sell real estate. I wouldn't either. I would not be able to do this.
I wouldn't even try to attempt it.
So this is all back in 2005, 2006. When did the lights go on in your head, Cindy, and you said, I'm being scammed?
The evidence was still clouded. I think the cloud started to dissipate more when they were sending lost note affidavits and other documents that needed to be signed by me, and I refused to sign those documents. That's when...
And you refused because of why?
Because there wasn't evidence that the transaction was really what it stated. Something just appeared really shady. I didn't have enough
Because you weren't
proof.
getting the money for it? Or
There was no money. There was no handshakes or meeting of the minds in regards to the documents. Investment projects were not coming through. It just appeared that they were after something that I couldn't understand, and that thing that they were after was the home.
Yeah, your 3-garage home,
Correct.
sitting in a nice neighborhood in Orange County, worth today maybe, well, at least $1 million, huh?
Minimal.
Minimum $1 million. Even in bad condition,
Yes,
it's probably worth $1 million.
that's correct.
And you put 20% down on it when you purchased it. You've been making payments all those years. Up to when did you say, okay, I'm not making payments, I'm going to stop? There's fraud going on here. I don't know who to make. I mean, did you know who to make the payments, or when did that hit you? Last year? The year before last year?
Didn't really know who to make the payments to. The way that my accounts were set up prior to all this was I had money sitting in a bank account, and it had an automatic withdrawal.
Okay.
So they just had free reign with my liquid cash.
And how did you make all this money sitting in the cash?
I've traveled for 14 years abroad playing professional basketball, 2 years in the WNBA, left monies in stock and into bank accounts so that my bills could be always paid on time. They could just go in and take their portion. So it was basically on an honor system. I trust that they would only take their portions, but they went above and beyond and
took more.
Yeah, they
just kept
basically
taking more.
destitute me.
And then they forged these documents to justify the money they'd taken.
That's correct. The amounts of the rents went from
So it wasn't just robbing you of your house. They were robbing direct cash deposits you had.
Yes.
And they needed these documents to back up, and that's why they wanted you to sign things you didn't understand, didn't make sense to you.
Yes.
And they thought, oh, she's just a basketball jock.
She'll never figure it out.
She'll never figure it out. She's a black woman. She won't understand. She's a black woman, you know.
By the time then, we'll be gone with the bag of money, and she'll be with an empty sack.
She'll have an empty sack and an eviction notice on her house.
Yes.
When do you think you mentally caught them? What year was it? What can you remember the year? Was it 2012, 2011, 2010?
Well, I've always, at the inception of this transaction, I've always had some concern about the documents, but I think when Neil Garfield started introducing the securitization program, that's when I really started to get a real grasp that this wasn't a mortgage transaction. This had to do with securities, especially when you talk about the securitization. It had everything to do with Wall Street and these securities and the bonds and certificates. That's when I really started researching to find that this was all pre-planned. It was never intended for me to be a homeowner any longer. They would rent the property back to me, and that they would take possession of the home, rent it back, and then strip the home of its equity.
And eventually just evict you
Correct.
from your own home. But you still have possession. On this day, April 15th, 2015, you are still in physical possession of your home.
I'm in physical possession.
And
I refuse to
have
move.
you sued this Mr. Diamond and Fidelity and Chicago and everybody who had their hands in the pie?
All parties that were involved refused to go to trial. They basically have moved out of state. They have, it appears they have some secret type of protection through the system that we're unaware of.
Excuse me. For once, I'm at a loss for words.
Yeah, it's pretty unreal. These documents will never show in the court records because these documents will put someone in jail. That's how pervasive this transaction is.
I can see that. You've got thing after thing that says forgery, forgery, forgery. Got 5 of them in a row.
Well, in fact, the interesting part of how they execute all this is through signature pages where they slip the back page out and they'll change the top portion of the packet in the middle of the packet and then slide your signature page in there. And then they'll just kind of present it to you, Your Honor, or
Yeah.
this is what you signed. And you can see your signature, but
It's not the correct document.
if you look at the signature page,
The signature,
they'll move it around. You'll see the margins not in
Where it
the
should
right
be.
position.
Right. So it was done on a different machine.
There's a lot of copy, cut, and paste.
And one of these actually says, when you fill out the application, they interviewed you face to face.
Yeah,
And you're listed as a white person.
yeah.
Now,
Caucasian.
I'm trying to compare. I'm a little dark, but you're really a dark white person.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
didn't the judge notice that document where it says you're a white person and they interviewed you face to face?
Interesting enough, through all the retained counsel that I've had, it's never been addressed, not once.
And you've hired lawyers?
I've hired lawyers. I've spent over 20, 30 grand to represent this case. There's blatant fraud and forgery going on here. Not once was it added into the evidence and never went before an evidential hearing where someone can review these transactions. In fact, they just stalled out the case and
Who stalled
timed
it out?
out.
Who?
My very own attorney.
Your own attorney, which was who? The first one.
They know who they are.
The first one.
Both the first and the second.
Well, who was the first one?
I'll let you look them up.
And so, was there a second attorney that continued to not file things properly and not do anything right?
Yes.
Was that a pattern you saw in both attorneys?
Yes. There's a pattern that it appears in their own language, a corpus juris secundum, where there's a honor system to protect the state
Yeah.
and to protect the client second. So with this type of evidence, it will never, ever get to the public's eyes because it tells too much about the transaction.
I see you brought some photos here. Yeah, so they won't let it go to court. This Diamond guy has moved to someplace out of California.
He may be here. He may be under a different alias name. There's
And you had 2 attorneys, and one of the attorneys seems to be a Lenore Elbert. Did she promise to help you?
Yes, she did.
Did you work for her for a little while in exchange for help?
Yes, I did, per her arrangements.
And did she actually help you at all?
No.
Did she file late consistently?
Yes.
Did she have excuses for filing late?
Always.
Did they make sense to you?
No. Today, no.
So when George Olivo says he doesn't know of a single case she won, would you say that you don't know of a single case she won either?
I have yet to see a case won. I do know of one case that she did pretty well with the LIBOR, but I am not sure what the end results were.
Now, these are photographs of sheriff's cars near your house?
Yeah, basically, this was the pre-foreclosure when the house went into its blight. The city of Villa Park actually took a warrant out on the house and myself, took possession of the property, and they dug up the yard, the piping, redid the landscaping without my authority, my permission.
I didn't know this.
Yes, they used the law enforcement to intimidate and to scare.
So they're tearing up your front yard and changing the landscaping while you're in the house?
While I'm in the house, threatening to arrest me if I say anything, if I intervene on my private property.
The city did this?
The city of Villa Park. Their managers,
Isn't
the
it
city
the same city
attorney.
the Koshaks are in?
No. They are a different, I believe they're a different jurisdiction.
Notices on your door?
Post signs in the landscape,
Do you think
public humiliation.
Do you think these cops that were helping them do this, do you think they understood what was going on?
I'm pretty sure they understand what's going on. There's
The
a
fraud,
lot of,
do you think they understand the fraud going on?
sure they do.
The cops themselves, I mean, they're
I'm
not
pretty
lawyers.
sure they're very skilled in what's going on. It seems like there's a playbook that's going on, and they're following orders.
What is this ASC out of Des Moines, Iowa?
This is the subsidiary of Wells Fargo, who's trying to claim entitlement to foreclose on the property. But I've challenged them in numerous areas of validating their entitlement and also challenging the debt. In fact, they refuse to provide any types of financials or accounting or wire transfers which are in connection with the property
Right.
in question.
Did you talk to this Rebecca Fleming?
I have not. Well, yes. Actually, I did
You
talk
did
to
talk
her
to
once.
her. Okay. She says, if you have any questions about the information in this letter, please contact me directly at 1-800-853-8516, extension 44203. Well, I have some questions for you, Rebecca Fleming. I hope you don't mind William Wagener calling for my show. Take
This is
back
just-
America. I mean, we got to take back this country because they're literally stealing it from us.
Yeah, these are generic letters that they use to make it appear
Everything's
it's an illusion.
kosher.
It's an illusion that we are attempting to try to help, but these are letters that I've received throughout the years. They have enough evidence to show and prove that I've been alleging identity theft and fraud since 2006, but they choose to ignore it.
And here we are in 2015, and Diamond, Fidelity National, Chicago Title, the Chicago Title hasn't left the country, I mean the state. They still got offices here. So can we pinpoint who at Chicago Title, who at Fidelity National, which specific person aided and abetted Diamond in these felony frauds?
Yes.
Can you give me a name? Do you want me to read it out of the documents?
Probably best to read it out of the documents.
Which document? Which one? I'll read it.
I probably don't have it here. I have it in my books.
Maybe she'll get it. This one says forgery right here. It says forgery on it. This is Uniform Residential Loan Application. It's got your address in Villa Park. Zip code looks right. But you didn't sign this. It says forgery.
Correct. It'll show in the
Who-
highlighted area.
Who stamped it forgery?
I stamped it.
You stamped it forgery. And that was to take it to court to show the judge?
Those are, I highlighted and stamped it forgery so that the Consumer Financial Protections Bureau, the IRS, and the Franchise Tax Board, and the Federal Trade Commission can see what they're looking at, because looking at the document itself, you won't understand what the issue is. So I'm bringing the issue right on the face page. I'm saying it's forgery. I highlight the area that's the issue.
And you needed to do this, Cindy Brown, because the IRS is going to be looking for taxes based on money they think you got.
Correct.
So here we have Denise Anderson.
This is just a broker for one of the companies. That's
Denise Anderson. She's
that's
just
with
a
Loan
broker?
Leaders of America. She's just a broker.
But you think the escrow officer is in on this too, Christian Fisher?
That's the party that got it through Fidelity National Title Company.
So, I mean, I know what escrow companies are supposed to do. I used to sell real estate. They're supposed to make sure both sides are satisfied with all the documents and both sides have got what they bargained for before the escrow closes.
Create that closing. The actual closing should have happened with Chicago Title, with Chicago Escrow Company, of which you hold the original document.
Right.
And then I can leave okay?
You want to
So
step into her place?
Absolutely.
Okay, Renee Powers, explain to me what Cindy didn't quite get across here.
First of all, I've known Cindy now for almost 2 years. We met through a research group, and she and I have been battling very similar wars with the banks and with fraud. What Cindy has, I don't believe, clearly executed here as far as the question is the escrow that's been discussed in all of these billboards that have been shown
Right?
here.
We've got these right here.
That's an escrow that she had nothing to do with. It was the fake Cindy Brown. It was the forgery. It was the trespass on her identity.
And we don't know who the fake Cindy Brown was. Could have been Mr. Diamond.
We have Akila Holmes who was involved, who we do know was involved. And she did, we do know that she signed checks and she signed other things. But what the key here is that Cindy actually is in receipt of the original document
Yeah, we've got
for
the
promissory
original.
note.
Yeah.
Now, what this means is she was in executory mode to do this document and to do this transaction. But what happened was going into this transaction, she began to realize that there was problems, and she did not, it was never executed.
Executed.
Right. So, but what was executed was, as you know here, there are 5 different forgeries of applications that have presented themselves into this escrow that she had nothing to do with. So I just wanted it to be clear so that for your audience, so that they can know, Cindy was not a part of the Fidelity National escrow.
Ah,
That was a total forgery using her likeness and trespassing on her vessel, which anybody in the public and private domain know that means that as a professional basketball player and as an athlete and an Olympian, her signature is worth a lot of money. That AKA page, in our belief, is actually a page that's allowing them licensing agreements to use her likeness.
that's what that
And
was
that's
about.
that's what that's about, is what we believe.
Had
because
nothing to do with the loan on her house.
no, she's worth millions of dollars on the backside,
She's been
trading her
really-
as a security.
And she had 2 attorneys, 2 honorable, alleged honorable members of the California Bar Association, and they both let her get screwed.
Well, I believe what happened here is that we will never know the extent of the crime committed because it's so vast. Cindy's person and her woman are worth so much money in securities. Her basketball cards, her basketball contracts, all of this is a licensing agreement. She thought she was signing a mortgage, but she was signing a licensing agreement, of which now remember, she never followed through with. She continued to have this in her safe up until just a couple of months ago when this was recorded on January 20th, 2015 in the County of Orange records. Now, mind you, the Sheriff's Department is also very aware of this. They have had all of this documentation since, I believe, 2006, correct, Cindy? Since 2006 forward, they have had every bit of evidence she has showing the crimes.
And they haven't arrested anyone.
They well, no, actually they went in to arrest Cindy. by gunpoint. They went in saying on fraudulent charges, or fraudulently that she was committing suicide one night with guns to her head, everything else. They've been back to her home many times. I met at one point with Cindy and another woman just recently in the last few months with Ferguson, and Andy Ferguson, I believe is his name, that works directly with Sheriff Hutchins in Orange County. He was again presented with all this information. He was stymied. He literally gave the impression that he had no clue any of this, any of this could happen.
This was the new sheriff?
Yes, Sheriff Hutchins. This was just her second-hand man, her
Oh,
right-hand man, her right-hand man,
her
Andy
senior,
Ferguson.
Her senior deputy.
He was very
sheriff.
nice, but the problem we have is that our evidence and our crimes that we are bringing to them are being ignored. And when I say ignored, she's even gotten letters back from the district attorney's office stating that they won't prosecute, that they see no crimes being done. Now, you and I, just in what we're seeing here, it's very, when you have the original document in your safe, you've recorded it, as you can see here, she recorded it. It never went into escrow for her. She did never.
What does the county recorder have in their? They just have a digitalized copy of the original that she has.
She had the original. She took the original
So
and
they
had
have
them
the
record
original
it.
now?
They recorded the original.
And they have it.
And they have it.
They still have it.
No,
They
she
didn't-
has. She got it back
Oh,
after
she got it
recording
back
because
after
once you
recording.
record it, it comes back to you. The other thing you'll note is that the substitution of trustee that Diamond tried to do, he could not do because Cindy was actually the beneficiary. So the trustee, the recorder's office would not allow him to record that, but yet he, under penalty of perjury, said it exists and that he handled it, that he created the substitution of trustee. Bottom line here is this is trespass on her vessel. This is trespass on her identity. This is trespass on entity, complete trespass on her life, her home, her property. It's also trespass on her, anything to do with her legacy. And if anyone knows what that means, that's very important. And through her legacy and her estate has been raped. Her estate has been robbed. Everything she's owned has been taken. Now, this is not an anomaly. This is exactly what is.
This is a pattern in
This
practice.
is the pattern in practice. And the Attorney General's Office of California, as you know, as the California 18, we brought those cases.
Right.
And shortly after that, you yourself have been put through the harm's way. And I myself, knowing for fact that Leslie Westmoreland had the same attorney, the second attorney that was dealing with this case, together, and I believe, this is my belief, that there was interactions that created the downfall of getting anything investigated that those 18 cases had. Completely like this.
Since what month?
March of 2013, we presented the 18 cases to the Attorney General. C.J. Holmes did.
And that's why, out of frustration, you guys came and did the California 18 in September of 2014.
Well, no, it was in the fall or spring of 2013 we did that. 14,
No.
excuse me, spring of 2014.
Was it spring of 2014? I thought it
Yeah,
was
January.
September.
I thought it was January. No, it was
Yeah,
after.
maybe
It
it
was
was.
January because
Been that long? It's been a
that
year.
long. And I had continued to back up and make contact with Leslie Westmoreland. And at that time, he also, may I bring this up? He also was using Cindy Brown without her knowledge, telling her to give him information, like he was going to be framing this other attorney, that they were going to be going after her. So he in turn had endeared Cindy to him. This is our Deputy Attorney General of California, Leslie Westmoreland.
Leslie Westmoreland. And he's letting Cindy think he's going to go after some attorney. Not,
He's going to.
Not
They're
Lenore
going
Alberts,
to.
but some other attorney.
Well, no, it was Lenore Albert. She was the one. And what happened was during this time, I backed out. I fired her as my attorney in December of 2013.
You fired Lenore Alberts too.
Yeah, I did.
In December of 2013.
Yeah, and she wasn't happy about it, but it was not done publicly. At the time, it was very quiet, and I just said, I don't choose to be here. I saw too many things that didn't make sense to me, and people weren't winning.
So
Basically,
you, George Olivo, Cindy Brown, Sherry Hernandez, all of you are having the same pattern of results or lack of results using Lenore Alberts.
Well,
But
I never had her file a case for me. Actually, she used me. We had a research group. So although I had hired her as my attorney, I was not in foreclosure when I went to her. When I left her office, I was.
Wow.
So,
Wow.
but to go forward on that, when we filmed the California 18, Leslie Westmoreland, Denny Pyman out of Los Angeles were involved. I had conversations with them. Jack Sutty, our private investigator
Yeah,
out of
the
San Diego,
ex-police officer.
the ex-police officer, he was involved. We tried everything we could to get them to investigate fraud. And they said they saw no wrongdoing, but they had no investigation. They would not investigate, but they saw no
of
wrongdoing.
course.
So what happened was in
We can't see
yeah,
it because we're not
looking
investigating.
at it. So in September of 2014, the very first week, I sent Leslie Westmoreland an email because I had a phone call that was very disturbing. It said to me, Renee, I am so sorry that our group didn't listen to you. You were right. We should have backed away. Something wasn't right there. Because my answer to all of this was, I won't have anything to do with this story. I'm not going to talk about her publicly. What I want you to do is just know that I don't leave places for no reason. But I left, and I refused to talk. I blocked everybody that had anything to do with her in December 2013. Fast forward to September 2014, I contact Leslie Westmoreland because I get a disturbing phone call that tells me all of them are being sued. I had no idea. I had no contact with this group since leaving her office. Apparently, she was suing them for defamation of character.
You say she, you're
Lenore.
referring to Lenore
Yeah, and-
Albert, the pretty little
Well,
blonde.
you have a different opinion than I do, but well, you know what? Because I find that deception is evil, and deception is not pretty.
No,
And
deception is
so
not pretty. It's
Deception is not
dangerous.
pretty. It's very dangerous. So what I did was I sent an email to him saying, I need you to know that this is what I'm hearing, that you actually have participated in blocking the California 18 from getting help through the Attorney General's office because of your relationship with this attorney. Is this true? And please keep this private because I'm afraid because she's dangerous. I believe she's dangerous. I don't want to be hurt. I don't want my family hurt. In CC, he CC'd her on my private communication to the Attorney General's office. Wow. He CC'd her and told me to take it up with her. I responded to him.
Hold that thought. Mm-hmm. I'm going to edit. I'm going to change camera angle. 'cause- Oh my God, Renee, Cindy, this appears, if you've got Westmoreland who works for the State Attorney General's office, you got all these people, all bar-carded people. We've got an entire legal system that is working to commit fraud. That's what it appears to me as a journalist. And I'm not involved in any of your mortgages. My signature's not on any of this. But this appears to me to be massive fraud by the banks through the banking attorneys. And this fellow Diamond, if that's even Diamond's really his real name, I'm not even sure Lenore Albert's name is really the name she was born with or graduated from high school with. We've got such massive fraud going on here. I think it will take a common law right grand jury of we the people. That sign that I have behind here, the ultimate sovereign of this Republic of California. It's going to take a grand jury of we the people and an armed militia to back them up. No wonder this summer the military is having exercises in California, Utah, Arizona, Texas, and New Mexico to quench armed rebellion. Because I think when the people understand how massive the fraud on the court is, and the courts are involved in it, the courts and the clerks are permitting it to some degree, and like Cindy said, she couldn't even get this guy in a trial. The system is broke. The system is broken down. What you were saying again? Go ahead. What you were saying?
Well, go ahead. Okay.
I got to change it. See, when you don't have a crew, this is what you got to do, and it's a pain in the butt. But okay, I've got to be. Here's my hat. So right there. We're still rolling.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Well, what's key here is that there's a lot of state bar complaints. And actually, my state bar complaint, I got the phone call from the state bar because the United States Inspector General actually called the state bar to open my complaint because I sent them the emails and such of what Leslie Westmoreland did. I opened my state bar complaint against the Kamala Harris, Denny Payman out of Los Angeles, and Leslie Westmoreland. What was interesting is I did not know that they did not open 4 complaints. They opened one as an umbrella complaint and shut it very quickly.
Open one day, shut the
Yes,
next day, no investigation.
and all they did was call her, and she said that I wasn't telling the truth, and she gave them. I presented affidavits, signed, sworn affidavits, attesting to the facts. Never once did they get one from her attesting that I know of. They've never presented it to
So
me.
she just says no, but doesn't say it under penalty of perjury.
Right, right. So,
And they take her word. That's just like CPS court.
well,
when
but
you're
the
in a family
interesting
court.
thing
They
was,
t-
right, I did
Nobody
have
says,
it.
you know, nobody's under oath who ought to be under oath. Only the victims are put under oath.
Right. Well, the good news is that it was reopened. I contacted the
Oh,
Inspector
good.
General's office again.
The U.S.
And U.S. Inspector General's office, yes. And it was reopened. And I actually have it now in the highest appeals area of their offices there. And that's all I want to say about that right now, because that is being taken
If
care
that
of.
doesn't work, are you prepared to go to the common law grand jury of Orange County and give evidence
You know
there?
what? At this point, because we don't have enforcement, what I am prepared to do is
Well, we
I
can
am
have a private attorney
but
general.
I'm an American national, so there's a whole lot of different things I can do as the woman, because my vessel has been trespassed upon. I have been, my identity has been bastardized.
You're not going to use any private attorney general and a common law.
Oh no, I will, but I can't give you specifics because it hasn't even started as yet. I have to have the end result before. We got to get to the nth degree before we know of which we're coming back to. But what is key here is that she also, Lenore Albert, sued the State Bar of California. And the State Bar of California, actually, the very first thing they did was claim their sovereign immunity.
I saw
And
that.
what is interesting is that we have been labeled, and she tried to call us sovereign citizen extremists, which, first of all, there's no such thing as a sovereign citizen. So anyone who says that shows their illiteracy to exactly what they're stating. The state gains its sovereignty from the people. The people are the state. We are sovereign, creating a sovereign California.
We the people, I mean, that came out in the 1992 6-3 U.S. Supreme Court case of U.S. versus Williams, where Justice Scalia, he's still a U.S. Supreme Court justice. As we speak this day in April of 2015, he's still on the Supreme Court. He said the grand jury is like a fourth branch of government.
It is the fourth branch.
It's not under the judiciary, it's not under the legislative, and it's not under the executive. It stands separate and sovereign above all three of them because it's not assigned in Article 1, 2, or 3 to any of the three departments.
Well, and
So
it's key. It's key because
key.
is we are sovereign. Sovereign means nothing except freedom. Sovereign is freedom. We the people are free.
Yeah, you're
we
not
the
under
people.
somebody.
But what people do not understand is that as the vessel, as the all caps name, you are not free. You are a slave to the system. So when you go into that court, if you don't understand or recognize your status as being private or public, people keep screaming in the courts, Constitution, Constitution. The Constitution only represents the sovereign. So you have to stand. They have no jurisdiction over the men or women. So what's interesting in this case, though, is that the State Bar actually won their case against Lenore Albert
on sovereignty.
under the 11th Amendment. The judge, when he wrote the opinion, it was very interesting because the judge left out the term sovereign immunity, but he stated under the 11th Amendment that they could not be prosecuted. She could not carry forth. So what I hope in all of this fraud that we're presenting to you, the one thing that is very evident is that when a public servant is brought fraud or positions of criminal actions against the people, they have a duty to investigate. We have had no duty by these, well, duty as in the sense of poop. They have pooped on us. They've given us duty, all right. But what we want to say is, hey, all it takes is doing your job. We are not against the government. We are against corruption.
Against
corruption.
fraud.
And all of this screams of coercion. All of this you don't just have a title company and a broker and checks being written. They have to consortedly work together in order to create the crimes that you see in the escrow that our Cindy Brown was not the center of. Her identity was, her vessel was, she was trespassed upon. The highest form of treason in this country is trespass upon your and my vessel. Every mortgage is not a mortgage, it's a licensing agreement of which they have stolen without our understanding, without our knowledge.
Well, they've tricked you into giving them a license to use your signature and therefore your identity.
Yes, and they actually have paid these out over and over because as soon as these were wet inked, now mind you, her wet inked were not her signature, But the Treasury is where the Social Security account was accessed to pay these off. So going to closing, there was nothing owed. So anyone who has what they believe is a mortgage out there, you need to understand that this is a patent problem. You are a patent. Your name has a patent. You are you. But what happened is that you, all caps you, and lowercase you, have been bastardized into a corporate entity of which they have now taken a licensing agreement. So Cindy, of all people, has a licensing agreement that has been trespassed upon here. So I wanted to make sure that it was clear that there was the original had nothing to do with this,
all this
other
other
than they
stuff.
took this and bastardized it with a woman who pretended to be Cindy Brown signing documents and took it to Fidelity National Title,
Or it
whereas
could have been a man's.
it could have been a
pretending
man,
we
it could have
don't
been
know.
it could have been anybody, but basically Cindy Brown,
Could have been Miss
Cynthia L.
Denise.
Brown, was not in that escrow, only her likeness. And the highest form of treason is trespass upon your vessel. These people, that's a hanging offense.
They should be hung.
They should be hung.
I think they should be hung in front of the courthouse.
And anyone who says
With
anything
cameras.
against sovereign people, anyone who goes and uses the term sovereign citizen and says that they are bad people or anything else, that's treason. That's treason against the state, because the state is a sovereign state due to we the people. So when you have anyone say anything derogatory or threaten the people of the state, the Attorney General's office, especially if it's an attorney, should be taking that very seriously. But I question if you're not taking it serious in intent. My question is, how involved are you then? Or are you involved? Or are you afraid that you're going to be taken to tort for what you've done? Because this is an international crime. This is no longer, because our vessels are international.
Should we get no justice for Cindy?
If Cindy, let me answer, I know where you're going with this. If we cannot get justice for Cindy Brown, the Olympian, the woman whose vessel, the Olympian, has been trespassed upon, if we can't get the sheriffs of Orange County to stand up and notice that everything they've been given is fraud, if we have a sheriff's department that is putting guns to her head and then afterwards not investigating the true criminals, we have a real blurred line about justice. There is none. And we want to be able to work with the sheriff. The sheriff has a job. That sheriff
He represents us.
She represents us in Orange County.
Is
And
a
she's
she.
the highest authority in her jurisdiction. So she has more authority than the president. She does not have to be executing these documents. She can stop them in their track. So I hope that we have cleared up the fact that
I hope so too. I hope the sheriff comes to defend her house and her person in the house if they try to do anything with these forged documents. But if they don't, if the sheriff won't, I'm wondering if a Bundy Ranch standoff is maybe not appropriate.
you know what? You don't even have to go that far, because literally claiming your status and not letting and the court has no jurisdiction over her, the woman.
Are you helping Cindy, or is she in the process of claiming her true status?
Yes, she is. Yes, she is. And we have the ability to do this very peacefully.
Good.
And the sheriff herself, I know myself, my home is out of the jurisdiction. I've notified everyone. I have no zip code. I have no zip code affiliation. Therefore, they have no jurisdiction over me. I live my life as an honorable woman. I will not allow trespass on my vessel any longer. The courts, when you go into a court of law, if you do not allow them to take jurisdiction over you, and it's very important that realize when a judge says anything to you in a command, that's him taking jurisdiction. He has no right to tell you what to do. Only slaves are told what to do. When you go into that court,
often a
don't
judge
be a
will
slave.
say, "Do you understand?"
No, you can't understand, because
And-
you can never understand, because
What you have to answer is, "No, I do not stand under you."
well, no,
Because he's asking you
yeah.
to stand under his
but that's already
jurisdiction.
gotten too far. The first thing you have to do is say, under what jurisdiction do you have the right to proceed, and under what remedy do you offer me, the woman, if in so this room, because it's not a court, because remember, the documents don't have a court seal on them, therefore they're operating as a corporation. There's a big difference. So when you take documents in, if there's no court seal, that's not operating as a court, that's operating as a corporation. Right. So it's very key to stand in your foundation, recognizing that the courts are for commerce. You and I, you the man, the woman here. They have no jurisdiction over us. So when you go in there, the first thing you can do is, as long as you are in honor, they have to dismiss that case with prejudice because they cannot go forward. Unless you allow them to,
And how
they
does
cannot.
Cindy establish she's there in honor?
Just saying it. You just say it. You don't have to file any paperwork.
She,
to
the
stand in
woman,
honor.
I am standing here in honor.
You're
and-
on. I am standing in this court, and I am asking you under what jurisdiction you have the right to proceed, and under what remedy. Now remember, the bonds are the remedy for harm in the court. Under what remedy do you, the court, offer me, the woman? And if you can show me that you jurisdictionally have authority here and that you have remedy for me, the woman, I am ready to offer my surety that I am the administrator executor for and can work with the court clerk right now. I will stand in honor and allow that to happen. The only problem we have is that you have not given me proof that you have jurisdiction. As soon as you do that, we either can move forward and let the surety continue with you as the trustee and fiduciary, or therefore you have to dismiss this case. You're not doing anything unhonorable. You are just saying under what authority.
Got it.
So,
Well, people, that's pretty much close to the end of our show today. I think George Olivos made a blatant statement that he was a witness, and we have that video. Cindy Brown didn't disagree with George. Renee doesn't want to be involved in this attorney Lenore Alberts, if that's her real name, Albert. But I think you could gain from this that Renee did not see any value in whatever it was Lenore Albert was doing or failing to do. So when you have a pattern, and I see a pattern, not just George, not just Renee, not just Cindy Brown, but I think Sherry Hernandez will back this up, and there's others, Mrs. Moody. We have an attorney who's an honorable member of the Bar Card Association of California. And I want to stress, this is not your Article III attorneys, this is not your Article III courts. This is a private club court. It's not what you think it is. And that's why maybe what Renee just said didn't make sense to you, but you need to research this. Don't take Renee's word for it. Don't take my word for it. You will find out that there isn't an attorney in the state of California that has a license from the state of California.
they're foreign entities.
They're foreign entities. What they have is a license from their private corporation called the State Bar of California.
And it's felonious for them to present any case against you or I. Any.
Bingo. So, I mean, you got to research this. Cindy is still in her house. So,
And
she's trying to get a trial, and she can't get these people to trial. They won't let her get to a trial.
None of them will. The judges do not let it get to trial. The judges are dismissing these with prejudice before going to trial. So the people have had no justice. It's time the people, the men and women, come forth for their justice. Thank
Well,
you.
that's it. Thank you for being with us on this show. And we go out with a little music. I'm William Wagener with Renee Powers and Cindy Brown saying thank you for being with us. I hope you learned something. Turn off American Idol and Dancing with Stars and your favorite porn and the Waltons and the Retro Channel. Pay attention, because it may be your house they take from you next time, because you didn't know what you were signing. You just thought you were going to get a big pile of money and have some equity to spend. William Wagener with Cindy Brown and Renee Powers.
Thank you.
Thank you. See you next week. How do we look in there before you shut it off?
Oh, you look marvelous, darling.
The number you have dialed is not valid. Please check the number and try again.
Well, we tried calling a loan lending leaders in Irvine that supposedly had a lot to do with initiating these fraudulent, and there is no answer. Isn't that interesting? William Wagener here in Riverside County with George. George, do I have permission to publish this interview?
Yes, you sure do.
Are you going to tell me the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but what you know to be personally true?
So help me God.
And what is your last name, George?
My last name is Olivo.
Spell that.
Olivo.
All right. George is here because George happened to work for the Occupy movement. And because he was interested in helping people realize they've been reduced to debt slaves in America, he got involved in helping. What was the name of that family whose house you saved?
That was the Perez family home in the city of Anaheim.
And they're still in their home.
They are still in their home.
And it didn't come from legal filings in the courthouse.
No, sir. It came from the family working very hard, organizing the community, making some noise in the bank, and social media, which is our greatest tool.
Did you take blowhorns and stand outside the bank with blowhorns telling them what for?
Yes, sir. We went inside the banks with bullhorns demanding justice for this family who did never miss a mortgage payment and were being foreclosed on their home.
How could they foreclose on the Perez family when they had never missed a payment?
The banks had sold the mortgage to another company, which Mrs. Perez did not know. She made the mortgage payment to her original mortgage people, and they sent it back and gave her the people to send the mortgage payment, which she did, and then her mortgage payment was denied.
Wow. After how many years were the Perez family paying? How many years?
Close to 30 years.
So they were almost paid off.
Yes, they were.
And then they tried to take the home.
Yes, they did.
And now they're still in their home, but did they sign a new mortgage?
I can't give any specifics of that mortgage because if I do, they will take it back.
Okay, gotcha. Anyway, all this led to some meetings that you had with Occupy, correct?
Yes, and social media because we've tried to fight foreclosures in court, only to lose and with horrible results. But when we do social media, harass the banks directly, demanding justice with the people and organize the community and go to city council and we let the people know what we're doing. We apply the pressure on the banks to where they open up negotiations for a modification that the homeowners can afford.
I got that. So this works better than going into court with an attorney.
Yes, it does. I've never seen a foreclosure victory in the past 5 years that I've been a part of fighting foreclosures and doing social media. I personally have yet to see a victory in court. I know that there's a few of them out there. I know we have a couple of people who are suffering some prison time over their foreclosure victory. But their case is documented, but they're still getting punished for winning a settlement from the banks.
Yeah, that's. I'm thinking of Mary McCullough when you say that.
Exactly, that's exactly who I was speaking of.
And they punished her for winning,
Yes, they
winning a
did.
big judgment over the crimes of the bank.
Yes, they did. They punished her for winning. That's exactly it. For
And-
exposing and winning a settlement.
We've got to punish the bank somehow, don't we?
Yes, we do.
Now I want to go on. So this led to going to meetings, and at one of your Occupy meetings, did somebody approach you claiming to be an attorney fighting for the people?
Yes, that would be Lenore Albert. She approached us in many different foreclosure groups, offering assistance, claiming to have foreclosure victories and wins, none that I ever knew about, and come to find out, neither did anybody else. But she came offering assistance. She took clients from that are their foreclosure fighters themselves to help them in their case that she retained. She took their money and ran. She's famous for late filing.
Now, do you
This
know
is all
this? You
court
know this
public
because you
record.
did what? You followed her day and night, or you worked for
What
her?
I did is I supported her because she supported us at the Perez home. And if you can imagine, we're activists. So at that time, we thought, wow, we have an attorney with a bar card that's willing to support and help us legally.
That's what you thought.
That's what I thought, because that's what she had said. And she did spend some time with us. She attended some of our meetings, and she met other people. She offered her assistance at no charge. Then a few months later, we found out that she retained some of our people. And what I mean by our people, I'm talking about the foreclosure fighters who fight for people's homes that were losing their homes, right? That were in the process of fighting for their homes and fighting for other people's homes as well. She retained them as clients, gave them false hope, false allegations, never filed anything in court, and if she did, it was late. It got dismissed and thrown out.
Now you know that because you worked for her?
Yes, sir, I did.
And did she pay you too well?
She paid me peanuts for long hours. I went to work for her because she had broken her hand, and she needed my help. She didn't have any other employees there at that time, and she doesn't drive. She needed a driver.
Tim, she had a guy named Tim working for her, right?
Yes.
And she'd laid him off.
Well, he quit for personal reasons.
He quit, okay. So I just wanted to be clear. She didn't fire him. He quit for personal reasons.
Yes.
Okay, and then you came to work for her because of all this. And did you ever see one case that Lenore took that she flat out won in court for the homeowner?
No.
Who went to work for her? Did Cindy Brown go to work for her?
Yes, she did.
And did Cindy see her win any cases?
I don't believe so. I can't speak for her, but I can guarantee you no.
Okay, well,
And Sherry Moody went to work for her as well, who is very close and personal to me, which started this whole different ball game that we have here with this attorney. What happened was she filed Sherry Moody's case in the 11th hour, not giving opposing counsel 24 hours notice. So it got dismissed and thrown. I knew that
Oh
it
my
got
God.
dismissed and thrown, and I knew that it happened. So I told her what she did was wrong. She had a placard on her desk that honors her service as an attorney. I twisted that placard and I go, why don't you honor what this placard says and what is it doing here? She accused me of picking up that placard, holding it over her head, filed a restraining order against me, which was dismissed with prejudice, and I was awarded $1,000 in attorney fees. She has also filed more TROs, temporary restraining orders, for the very foreclosure fighters that we have sat in together in the trenches, and we have helped people. And a lot of times when we help people with foreclosures, it's helping them pack up their stuff because we lose. We have very few wins, but we fight like hell for the people. And these people give up their time. She's attacked the very people because I held her accountable with Sherry Moody's case. She had dismissed her clients for being friends of mine in different foreclosure groups.
oh,
She had fired them because now she because I'm a social media journalist, I told her that what she did was wrong. I was warned by a couple of people that Lenore Albert is not doing what she says she's going to do, and she's doing late filings, and she's not honoring her word with this, and she's taking people's money and not being held accountable, and she's not winning any cases, and she's filing her cases
you
late.
never saw her win a single case.
No, and I'm ashamed to say that somebody very near and dear to me who warned me, I didn't listen because I believed her lies, that the reason why this and this happened, she had every excuse in the world. But when she did it in front of my face with Sherry Moody's case, because I'm an eyewitness to her lying to Sherry Moody on the phone, telling her that she was working on her case. Don't worry. At that time, I lived with Sherry Moody. All right. So I would go home and Sherry Moody would ask me, what's going on with my case? Lenore's not returning my cell phone calls. She's not returning my text messages. I have a court date coming up. Hello? How come I'm not in her office sitting down going over getting the paperwork ready with her? How come she's not? And when I talked to Lenore, I got all of her paperwork together. Lenore had told me that don't worry about Sherry Moody's case.
You're traveling into another dimension, a dimension not only of sight and sound, but of mind, whose only limitation is the imagination. Next stop, the courthouse zone.